Hello everyone. So today's topic is something that I was debating whether or not it was even worth publishing. And the reason is that I know that around this time of the year, everyone wants to talk about their New Year's resolutions. And for me personally, I'm actually not a firm believer in New Year's resolutions. I find that these types of resolutions tend to be very lofty and broad in nature, and hence they're difficult to actually achieve. I'm more so a fan of goal setting, and more specifically in understanding short-term versus long-term goals and finding the balance between the two. But having said that, I know for me personally, I have a couple of objectives that I have in mind for 2018, and I figured why not also go ahead and share my method in terms of goal setting and how to successfully achieve those objectives. So, the first thing I want to say is that it is crucial that you put some focus into your goal setting. One of the worst things you can do is create a list of 20 things that you want to do in 2018 and hope that you get them all done. That's simply not going to be effective. There's various studies out there that talk about the importance of narrowing things down and focusing on only one, two, or three things that are most important to you. In my case, and my recommendation is 3 goals. I often find that the number 3 tends to be a good balance in terms of being impactful and efficient, not just in goal setting, but also in simply being convincing and proving a point. So, having said that, for 2018, I have established 3 primary objectives that I want to accomplish. Now, before digging into some of those details, one thing that I want to say is that goals and your objectives are going to change and evolve and maybe develop even further as the year and as you yourself continue changing, growing, and progressing. Which is why it's important to understand the difference in the balance between long-term and short-term goals. One of my goals in particular is being more organized. Now that is a long-term goal. That's something that I hope to continue getting better at over time. For me, 2017 was very busy and there were a lot of surprises that came up, and that created a little bit of chaos in my life, and it made it difficult for me to adapt and adjust my schedule, which is why that has become kind of a primary objective for 2018. I hope to be better at it. I hope to be more flexible so that when the changes which are expected to happen and new responsibilities come on, I will be able to more easily adapt and still do the things that are important to me, rather than sacrificing those things and just focusing on the new changes or challenges. So that for me is a long-term goal. But I also have a goal that is a little bit more short-term in nature, and my expectation is to get that goal accomplished within the first 6 months. Once that's accomplished, then that goal kind of evolves into something a little bit bigger. So that's normal too. It is normal to have something that will kind of change as the year progresses. If we create, like I said, just a list of 20 things, it becomes very difficult to understand how they all mix and balance together. So instead, pick 3 things, understand how they're interrelated, and then put your action plan in place. In order to put your action plan in place, though, you need to have what is popularly known as a SMART goal. So, the SMART goal is a concept that is pretty well known, and in essence what it is every single letter within the word SMART, or the acronym SMART, stands for a unique trait that your goal should have in order to be achievable. So using my example of being more organized, I want to go ahead and break down each of those components and explain to you how you can think through creating SMART goals rather than just average goals. The first thing I want to say is that a SMART goal is specific. So rather than me saying I want to be organized, can I be more specific about it? Can I maybe say I want to be more organized in my professional life, or I want to be more organized in my personal life? For me personally, that's not the case. I want to be organized across the board. So I'm not actually able to split it up between professional or personal, or my behavior at home versus my behavior somewhere else. That just won't work for me. So as specific as I can get is that I want to be more organized. Now, is my goal measurable? The M in SMART stands for measurable. Being more organized is something that is difficult to measure, but I've been able to kind of think through a couple of ways to help me measure that. One thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to implement a new way of tracking my agenda or my weekly to-dos. In the past, I have tried using a physical planner, and for me that just was not effective. I find that it's just one extra thing to write in, and I found it more time consuming than it was even worth. Instead, what I'm going to use is my Outlook calendar on my work computer. I know I use my work computer every single day. I look at my calendar every single day, and it's something that I pretty much live by during my work day. So I might as well apply that to the rest of my day as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Outlook calendar, and I'm going to block off some of the things that are most important to me. So for instance, one thing that I want to do more is just be more active. So just work out. So I'm going to make sure that I am blocking off those 1 to 2 hours, per week to incorporate some physical activity. And that way I can then track it on my calendar, and then at the end of the week I can review and make sure that I actually completed that particular task. The third letter in the word SMART stands for attainable. Is it something that is possible? So for me, being more organized is totally possible. And the only reason I haven't done it is because of my own lack of discipline or my own lack of whatever. Excuses are there, right? So it is completely attainable, and it is something that I can completely make happen in 2018. Is it relevant? So is this a goal that makes sense for me at this point in my life? Again, being organized is something that makes sense at any point in your life. And at this point specifically, it also makes a lot of sense. But if maybe you had another reason why, you had other priorities going on, and being more organized is just simply not one of them, then maybe it's not relevant at that point in your life. But like I said, for me, and I think for most people, it actually is very relevant. And then the last portion of the word SMART that is defining your goal is timely. So the T in SMART stands for timely. Now, in order to be timely, your goal has to be something that you can put some sort of timing constraint around. For me specifically, in being organized, that took a little bit of thought for me to think about how I could add some sort of timeline to it. So I thought of two things. The first is I'm going to assign my Sunday, I'm going to block off an hour on Sunday to review my week's activity and see how successful I was in accomplishing those goals for that week. But then I'm also going to make sure that I use that hour to think about the next week. And maybe there's some rearranging that I have to do if I have, board meetings or things that are going on outside of work that might conflict with the workout schedule, for instance, then it's just shifting and moving that around. But the other thing I want to say about being timely is the importance of breaking down these bigger goals into bite-sized chunks. So in my case, what I decided to do is, rather than thinking about, I'm going to keep this Outlook thing going for 12 months, I'm simply going to say I'm going to use my Outlook method for 1 month, for January. And then at the end of January, when I'm reviewing that week, I'm going to sit down and actually think about how effective this process was. Was I actually meeting those objectives? So even though I blocked off the 2 hours for working out, did I do it? Was I able to make it in time to wherever, the gym, or to run outside, whatever that plan was I actually successful? And if not, reassess and readjust. I think the biggest thing that you need to remember with goal setting is that you will have to be flexible. It is often that people do not accomplish their goals, do not meet their objectives because they are unwilling to readjust. They were, adamant about wanting to meet a specific goal, and then when it's not working out, rather than changing the schedule or, rethinking the process, they just give up. And instead, you should just be flexible and readjust that objective. The other thing I would say though with that is, in terms of breaking it down, oftentimes I hear people that want to lose weight as part of their New Year's resolution. So they might say something like, I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the year. Rather than saying, I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the year, what you should do is break that down into bite-sized chunks. So instead say, I want to lose 2 pounds every single month for the next 12 months. In doing so, you're going to find yourself that losing 2 pounds is much easier than losing 20 pounds, right? And maybe 2 pounds, if that's not reasonable, that's fine too. Find the medium that actually works for you, but make it bite-sized chunks rather than one primary objective that is more difficult to, number one, measure, understand, and then of course achieve as well. So I hope these tips were helpful, especially as you start thinking through some of your goals for this coming year. Best wishes with the 2018 objectives. Like I said, I guess I will have to kind of follow up with you guys and let you know how it was working out for me in terms of my goals. But keep an open mind in terms of how you can structure your goals. And then most importantly, be willing to be flexible. I hope these tips were helpful. Please subscribe for more content. And until next time, thank you.